Hi, my name is Khleif, and I'm the host of the Lifetime Cash Flow Through Real Estate Investing podcast. And every week I interview multifamily rock stars, and we talk about how they've built incredible wealth for themselves and their families through multifamily properties. So hit the like and subscribe buttons to get notified every Monday when a new episode comes out. Let's get to it. Welcome to another edition of Lifetime Cash Flow Through Real Estate Investing. I'm Khleif, and I'm thrilled you're here. And I know you're going to get tremendous value from the lady I'm interviewing today. Her name's Keeley Hubbard, and she is a sales trainer extraordinaire. She and I actually sat on a panel at a multifamily investor conference in Charlotte, North Carolina, which was a lot of fun because Shaq was there and Jocko Willink was there and Barbara Corcoran was there. And in fact, I just got invited to the next one. I'm sure you did as well. But anyway, Keeley, welcome to the show.
Thanks for having me, Rod. I've been excited about this.
Yeah, let's have some fun today. So now, Keeley, you also invest in large multifamily and you invest in vineyards, which is interesting. And so you're doing a lot. You're wearing a lot of different hats. But I want to focus today on really capital raising, because I think we're moving into an environment where the deals aren't going to be as hard to find. The money's going to be hard to find, not debt and equity, but we're going to talk more about equity today. But why don't you give us a little background before we go down that pathway and just talk a little bit about you and how this all came about for you, and then we'll start with questions.
Yeah, you bet. So I've been in sales now over 18 years. I'm one of those weirdos that just loves sales. Like, I'm obsessed with it. And it's because I became really good at it over time. But I think a lot of people refer to me as the anti-saleswoman because I hate the typical sales approach, which I think most people do if you're a consumer. And so early in my career, I realized I wasn't going to learn how to sell from a lot of the sales trainers that I was exposed to in the corporate space. I had to figure it out on my own if I really wanted to feel like I was doing the right thing by people and not being pushy and aggressive and all the stuff that people hate about typical salespeople. So built a really successful career in the corporate space, became VP of sales, managed teams of about 600 salespeople, and grew a company from 40 million to 220 million in about 4 years. So got a really good track record in that space, but also proving to myself that I could teach how I sell. That was the big question mark in my mind when I started. I know it works for me. Can it work for other people? And that space that I was in corporate was financial education. So it was high ticket sales. I've been having conversations with people about money for a very long time. Doing that in this capital raising space it's the same thing. It's talking to investors about money. And what I found is most people that want to get into the multifamily space, right? People that reach out to you, Rod, for, hey, Rod, help me build a multifamily business. A lot of them are terrified of the sales aspect of it and having conversations with investors. They're afraid they're going to come off like typical salesperson. So that's really my wheelhouse. It's what to say, how to say it, and how to really feel proud about what you're doing and really serve your investors at the same time.
Yeah, a lot of my my avatar is very often very analytical and even introverted sometimes, and so yeah, the sales that strikes terror in their heart when you talk about, hey, you got to influence or sell. And in fact, at my boot camps, I make people get up and meet other people, and for some of them, it's traumatic, but they always thank me afterwards. But it can be very traumatic. So yeah, so that's really cool. Now. So as I was telling you before we started recording, I really believe moving into this economic environment that we're in and moving into, and I think it's going to be uglier than people think it's going to be. And finding the deals isn't going to be as hard as finding the money for the deals. In fact, I just had somebody ping me a couple of days ago. They've got a deal in Houston, several hundred units, that the interest rate went from 3% to 6%. That's a big freaking deal. And so, that's a real problem for that operator. And so, I know my team and I are really focused on, raising equity, allaying the fears of investors, because there's a lot of fear out there right now. And it's unfortunate because I really think an incredible opportunity is coming for the people that aren't fearful. And so, let's talk about this a little bit, let's start at the beginning. Let's say, pretend I'm an operator that has never really raised any money, and you're coaching that operator. And by the way, guys, her website is KeeleyHubbard.com, KeeleyHubbard.com. And she teaches people how to do this stuff, but let's train a little today, obviously. So what's the first step?
first step for somebody that's brand new, that's wanting to learn how to raise capital, is really figuring out who are they talking to. I think that's one of the big mistakes that people make when they get into it. It's just they start pitching, and I call it product vomit. But look at how amazing this, this asset class is. It's so much better than what you're investing in. And they don't draw people in first, and they don't really hit people like where they're starting from. If you're investors, if you know who they are and it's a niche space, maybe it's high income earners in the corporate space, because that's who you are and that's who you're targeting for your investor. What are their pain points? Instead of starting out pitching them on multifamily, what are they dealing with right now? What are their biggest frustrations? And for a lot of them is they don't have time to even think about their investments because they're traveling 20 days a month, they're in corporate meetings, there's high pressure, high stress. And so we've got to meet them where they're at first, and understanding what are the pain points of my ideal investor. It's different if you're a physician and that's who you're targeting. I've got clients who are working with first responders because they're firefighters. So cool. Very, very different pain points. And it can't be a one size fits all approach. And so we've got to figure out, who are we talking to? What are their pain points?
Well, so give an example of some pain points, like your client that's a first responder. That'd be a good one. So what did you guys come up with for that person, if you've gotten to that point with that person yet?
Oh yeah, we have. And so my client was telling me a story about being at the firehouse or the fire station. They're there for a couple of days straight, and he was overhearing a conversation of he calls them his brothers, right? One of his brothers talking about how many additional 24-hour shifts he was going to have to work every month just to get an extra $400 in his retirement check. And that was his whole focus. And this guy's in his mid-50s. My client is not, he's younger, but he's telling me, he's like, Keeley, this is it's a dangerous job. Every time we leave the station, we're risking our life. And this guy is going to work an additional 3 24-hour shifts every month just for $400 in retirement. He's like, he deserves better than that. And so that's the messaging. It's like, you deserve better than the retirement pension or, Wall Street investments you've been given. You don't have to stress about, taking on more shifts to make more money in retirement. So it's really getting specific about what are their pain points. That way, when people land on your website, they get your emails, they hear your messaging, it resonates with them so deeply that they're like, wow, he gets it. Like, he gets me. I'm exactly who he helps.
So that's awesome. Let's talk for a minute about websites. And, I know that you feel a lot of people make big mistakes in their websites. And so let's talk about some of those flaws that you've encounter in a website and or a sales funnel that people try to create on their website. Can you speak to that a little bit?
Oh yeah, definitely. The first one I'll say is that websites are so sterile in the multifamily space from what I've seen, or if you have self-storage or oil and gas, and it's pictures of buildings. It's like, nobody wants to look at buildings. There's no emotion in that. So they feel very corporate or, just commercial, and there's no feeling behind the brand. I would rather you have happy, smiley people all over it. Whoever your ideal investor is, family, smiley, videos of families playing in the yard because they've got extra free time, families on vacation. You can put a few buildings in there here and there, but it's the feelings that will elicit the emotion for somebody to say, okay, I'm going to invest with these guys, or I'm going to reach out. So it's got to have a warmth to it instead of this corporate
Wow.
feel.
And what's interesting is I've had these conversations with my partner, and both past partners, they wanted it more sterile and blues and grays and institutional looking, and maybe for credibility, but man, I like your idea much better, and make it real, make it warm, make it inviting, make people want to do business with you. Got it. So what are some flaws you see people make on their websites? I saw this in your bio, the 6 fatal flaws people make. Talk about that.
Yeah. The other one is the funnel itself. And we hear this word funnel and funnel hacking, and there's a lot of books and really great experts out there about funnels. But people get too caught up in, trying to pitch a lead magnet. Lead magnets are so important in this space. I believe in them. You should have them. I give them to my clients to put on their websites. They're very important. However, they should not be the first priority. They should be secondary. Okay,
hold on. I'm going to stop you for 1 sec. Sorry to interrupt. So those of you who don't know what a lead magnet is, it's something you give away for free that has value and or ideally some real perceived value that someone's willing to give you their contact information for. And I've got a dozen. I write some incredible books about every aspect of this business, and some are the best in class in their respective type sides of the business. And I give them away for free, but you're going to give me your email address to get them, and very often the phone number as well. And so that's a lead magnet. So I'm sorry, please continue.
No, Thank you for explaining that.
Yeah.
And you have amazing lead magnets. I've checked them out.
Thank you.
But it's so important that that is not the primary objective when somebody hits your website in the investing space. I'm in the online coaching space. It is the primary objective, get somebody's email address as it is for you, Rod. But when we're talking to investors, when they hit our website, we need them to schedule a call with us.
Yeah.
Because if they get that lead magnet and they put in their information, we send it to them and then they're gone forever. And now we're chasing them, trying to build a relationship. So we've got to keep them in that funnel. So I use a 3-step funnel. The first step is a short form. It's just, what's your first name and your email address? And it's like, it's not, do you want our lead magnet? It's join our investor club. It ensures that you'll never miss a future investing opportunity. Plus it's free. And we have a ton of fun on the inside, right? So join our investing club. Plus we'll give you our free ebook, Multifamily Playbook, Secrets to Successful Apartment Investing, something like that. But the primary is join the investor club. Short form first, because it gives them momentum to keep going in the process. There's websites where you see join our investing club or get our lead magnet. And it's, what's your name? What's your phone number? What's your email? What's your net worth? What in it, like people
firstborn, blood type. Yeah, no, it's so freaking stupid. And you want to minimize that. Okay. So you said 3. So you did say all 3 steps. So short form, join the club, and the free ebook. Love it. Love it. Love it.
Well, the second step, Rod, is the actual longer investor form.
Okay.
So that second step is at the bottom of that first one. It's like, hey, wait, you're not done yet. There's 2 more simple steps to join the club. You make sure you want to complete these so you don't miss investment opportunities. So then the next page pops up once they hit submit. And then it's that longer investor form. And it's not long. It's very strategic on the questions. They complete that. And ideally, there's a video at the top where you're like, hey, I'm Keeley. So great that you're so glad that you're here. We give a little bit of explanation on how we're regulated, why they've got to have a call with us. We really bring their walls down, which is disarming them in the sales process. That's a lot of what you and I both teach. I know that, Rod. Right. But getting them to want to fill that form out. And then the third step is our calendar pops up. And I've been running this for years. I've been doing it for clients. It is very rare that somebody will only fill out that first form and grab that ebook and not continue through the process. So this funnel leads to phone calls scheduled on your calendar so you can build a relationship with an investor, which ultimately translates to capital, and we're not chasing them. It's
really interesting that you say that, because that's at the conference that we went to that Dan Hanford puts on. He got up and talked about raising equity, and so did some of his team, and their total focus is the phone call. And so, I'm hearing, that is absolutely the most important piece, because you're not going to get, very seldom are you going to, well, I shouldn't say this, maybe I'm wrong, but I don't think you're going to be super effective raising money from someone from an ad that you have an ad in and say, hey, I've got this deal. Here's put $100,000 into it. They're going to want to talk to in most cases. And so, yeah, by the way, I'm seeing something here interesting. I see the word on your bio. I see the word raving fans, and I see disc profile. You've spent some time around Mr. Robbins. I can tell. Yes. Okay.
I'm a firewalker, Rod.
Okay. Yeah. I mean, I spent 20 years following him around the planet, and I was on his team for 8 years. And so I recognize some of that phraseology. And so let's talk about raving fans, because that's a term I use for my students, where how do we continue to add value and create raving fan, coaching students, my warriors. So let's talk about that with investors. How do you turn somebody that's a stranger? We talked to, how you get them on a phone call, but then how do they become a repeat investor and a raving fan?
To me, and what I've found successful for many years, and what I've also taught, is it all comes down to communication. That very first phone call that you have with them sets the tone for your relationship going forward. And this is going to sound really simple, but it is what has been burned into my brain from a young age, that your word is all you have. And that comes back to keeping your word. Did you keep your word to your investor with things as simple as, I'm going to send you information, or I'm going to follow up, or you're going to get an investor report once a month? Are you communicating with them? Can they trust you on the small things? Because if they can't trust you on the small things, are they really going to trust you with multiple 6 figures with their investments? And investor communication is so crucial. I talked to a new investor a couple of weeks ago, and I said, what's important to you when you invest in a deal like this? Like, what do you factor into your decision? And I think the answer would surprise a lot of people. He said, communication's everything for me. He goes, I invested in a deal 6 months ago, it's had great returns, like it's been on target, hit its pro forma, but I'll never invest with them again. Why? Because they don't communicate with me. They don't keep their word. They don't send their reports out on time. It's hard to get a hold of people. And that is so flippin' important to building trust with your investors. Give them your cell phone number. It's very rare that they call us, but the fact that they have it and they know that I'm going to pick up the phone or I'm going to call them back as soon as I can builds so much trust. Raving fan means you come up with a new investment opportunity. They don't even know what the returns are yet. And they say, I'm in.
Yeah.
That's a raving fan because they trust you.
And you do that through communication, that you do that through keeping your word. And I assume adding value gets in there somewhere as well. Yeah.
Yes.
Okay.
Yeah, we like to do on a lot of our investments, the Vineyard specifically, instead of just bland investor reports that go out and P&Ls they don't understand, we do a monthly webinar. We call it Through the Grapevine. Everybody shows up with their favorite glass of wine or cocktail.
Oh,
we literally play Marvin Gaye's Through the Grapevine music when it starts, and we teach them about the industry and things they should understand and what's happening with their vineyard block. You could do the same thing with multifamily, but they're seeing you face to face. It's not a boring webinar. It's fun. And they can invite their friends if their friends want to learn more about what you're doing. So it's a great place to funnel new investors too.
Love it. Love it. Love it. Love it. Yeah, this is good stuff, guys. Hope you're taking notes. So what are some strategies around that initial conversation that you have? How do you deal with objections and or prevent objections? So speak to the conversation a little bit, to some nuances there, if you would.
I'm such a big believer in preventing objections. I spent too many years in sales with faulty sales trainers telling me to overcome them. And what happens there is you create this tug of war and tension with your potential investor when you're trying to overcome objections. And if we're trying to overcome them at the end, when it's time for them to make a decision, we haven't done our job in asking the right questions. So I like to look at these conversations as just disarmingly honest conversations. And anything that I could see as a potential red flag, I want to talk to them about it. Is their spouse on board? Because if they're not, I promise you, they're not going to invest with you. You can have this initial phone call with them. They're like, oh, I love this. Let me know when your next deal pops up. You think you're good to go. And then when it does, they ghost you.
So you actually asked the question in that conversation, how does your spouse feel about this investment? Now, let's say they vacillate a little bit and say, well, he or she's not sure that this is the best thing. What would you do in that situation?
I would respond and say, hey, I get it. This is not the first time that I've heard that. Can I make a suggestion? Would it make sense for all three of us to just jump on a Zoom call next week or in the next few days, depending on y'all's schedules, just so we can all get on the same page?
That's simple.
Hit me with the hardball questions and we'll make sure this is really the right fit for you guys.
Yeah, that's really good. Yeah. And I do the same thing with my coaching clients, because if the spouse is not not excited about buying apartment buildings and they're not on board, that's a problem. And so I have people actually on my boot camps, I unmute them and have them talk about people that have overcome this with their spouses and how they overcame it. It's always communication. But to show people that it's possible, because some people feel like they can't do it because the spouse isn't on board. So how do you make yourself stand out? What are some methodologies? I mean, I know what works for me, but I'm just curious for people. A lot of my listeners are just getting going in this, and they or haven't even started yet. They want to get started, and their butts better be at my boot camp coming up. By the way, let me throw that in there. But anyway, because I believe opportunity is coming, but you got to get up to speed as quickly as possible to capitalize on it. But how do you make yourself stand out in all the noise? There's so many operators right now, and how do you make yourself stand out, and then how do you convert? And maybe you've spoken about some of this a little bit, but maybe you can elaborate a little more if there's anything else.
Yeah, definitely. And I would also agree with you. I mean, now you say something big is coming. Like I've seen your boot camps, and for people to not want to go to those is nuts. Like now is the time to learn this stuff.
It's $97 freaking dollars, and I don't sell anything there. Hello.
Right. Get your butt there. Yeah, get your butt there.
Right.
So making yourself stand out, what I call a personal brand. And so we do have our company, we have our company name, but people aren't investing with your company name. Let's say that it's Sunshine Capital. That's a great name, but who's behind it? And I see so many posts on social media and websites, and it's like, who is this brand? Because people want to see you. And so what I believe makes you stand out is video. The more that people see your face, they hear your voice, they trust you. You build trust. Research has shown that. And a lot of people think that they've got to script out their videos. I would tell you, do not, at all costs, do not script your videos. People, the brain will tune out anything that sounds like marketing, anything that sounds scripted or pitched. You need to show up as who you are, have a good ring light on, right? If you're doing video, but just be yourself and talk to these people. Talk to the cameras if you're speaking to one person. And that's how you should be delivering your messages. But video on your website, video on your social media profiles, video in your emails that you're sending out to investors. Something as simple as saying, hey, I know you're probably scared right now. If you're watching CNBC, you're looking at Yahoo Finance, I know things are crazy, but here's what I got to tell you. And then deliver the message of truth, but acknowledge them where they're at first. And it's so much easier to do that through video. So just stay in
that's
their inbox,
so good. That's so good, Keeley. That what you just said is so good, because you're validating their feelings at the moment. And then you share your message. Oh, guys, I hope you're taking notes here. That is so good. So I noticed you have disc profile. And by the way, guys, Anthony Robbins has what's called his disc profile, and you can do it for free. He's got a free version. It's if you Google Anthony Robbins disc profile, and it's a personality profile that is incredibly accurate. Okay. Now you can pay a little more and get an enhanced version, but you'll be blown away how accurate it is. How does that tie into our conversation today, Keeley?
Oh my gosh, it is everything, Rod. I'm obsessed with DISC. Every salesperson I hired when I was in corporate, I ran them through many assessments. DISC was the primary assessment because their personality profile type, we need to know, like for me, who's on my sales team and who's selling. But for us, when we're talking to investors, we need to, number one, know our personality type. So we know our pitfalls. Right. We know what we're good at, but we know our pitfalls. And we need to understand all the other personality types. And there's only 4, so don't worry, there's only 4. Right. So if you're one of them, there's only 3 others that you've got to learn. But the key in a conversation is, regardless of the communication style, that's all DISC is. DISC evaluates what is somebody's DNA makeup for how they make decisions and how they prefer to communicate. So we have to, in our investor conversations, become a chameleon. They should never think that you are, like, for me, I'm a driver personality. I'm very direct to the point. I typically talk fast. Well, if I'm talking to somebody who is more of the conscientious personality, Southern, slow and talking like this, you have to match and mirror, right? As well. You do. You've got to match and mirror. You've got to slow down your pace of how you talk. But I also know if they're very analytical, I have to be exact in how I ask questions. I have to be exact in how I answer those questions. Please give an example. Well, I'm good at this now, Rod, because engineers were the ones that I struggled with the most in my sales career. And then I hired a sales coach and fixed it. Same here. I'm going to tell you, as far as clients, most of my biggest avatar for my coaching business is an IT professional, engineer, somebody super analytical. And the issue there is they do fantastic in the business, and they're the hardest to get to make a freaking move because every single box has to be checked off. So I'd love to hear. Please continue. So okay. So with that engineer personality, if they love to be in the weeds and they have this checklist, then you drag them into the weeds, bring them into the weeds. Don't talk high level. I would say something like, Rod, let's pretend you're an engineer. I'd say, Rod, if you're like myself, I typically have a checklist of items that I have to check off and have to make sense in my mind for me to say this decision is a good decision or it's not a good decision. And it's very black and white for me. Do you feel the same way? And they were like, oh yeah. I'm like, do you mind sharing with me, what are the things that are most important to you that you're looking for? And if they say something like, well, I want to know that you guys have a good track record. Great. That's fair. Can I ask you, what do you mean by a good track record? Define that. Why? Even go more micro. Don't just reply. Say, what does that mean to you? It's got to be specific, because that is their brain. And they're not going to ask you. They're not going to tell you their criteria unless you ask them. They'll go do their own research. And I used to think that they don't make decisions. Like, Rod, I used to lose so many sales back in 2010. I was like, engineers never buy. And I was so wrong. And my sales coach was like, you're the problem. And you don't understand how their buying process. They are great buyers, but only until they make all their checks on their little checklist that this is a good decision. And the reason for that is their biggest fear is making a mistake. That is their biggest fear. So we can't trigger that. So how do we make sure that we know what their checklist is so they can have a very clear black or white decision? Yes, this makes sense, or no, it doesn't. The other thing to remember with them, they will not move on pressure. If you pressure them, they will ghost you. Offer goes away tomorrow. Price goes up tomorrow. Investment closes tomorrow. You can't do that with them.
No.
We can't do that with them. And thank God for engineers, because our bridges would fall down if we didn't have them, right?
and candidly, thank God for analytical people, because this is our multifamily business, is got a level of analysis that's required. It's primarily empirical. It's primarily numbers. You get the numbers right and you ask all the right questions, it's pretty hard to make a big mistake. But so that was the bulk of my questions. What didn't I ask you that I should have as it relates to investor, wooing and warming and creating raving fan investors? What is there anything else we haven't covered?
I would share this belief system. I actually wrote an article about this today. The belief system, this, Rod, you've been in sales for a long time. You've been a Tony Robbins, fan forever. It's our beliefs that get in the way of our success if we're not monitoring them. And in this space, a lot of people go from working a W-2 where they don't really have a profile online. They're not really sharing their personal life with people. And now they're like, okay, how do I raise capital? Now I got to talk to people. What if they think I'm stupid? What if they think I don't have enough credibility? I'm not Rod Khleif with this, having raised $100 million in a huge portfolio. How, I'm not an outgoing person. They have all this head trash that gets in the way of them being successful. And so I will share with you what my sales coach told me over a decade ago when I didn't want to make cold calls because I was worried. It was uncomfortable for me and I hated the idea of being hung up on. He said, Keeley, get out of your own way. He's like, there are people on the other end of that phone that need your help. And the only way they're going to get your help is if you are not selfish. You have to let go of that, worrying about who you are and what are they going to think of me? He said, they don't care. And they need your help. So you have to get out of your own way and care more about transforming their life than you do about your own level of uncomfort. And the same thing is required when raising capital. Yeah.
And honestly, it's just, this resonates with me because I've had this conversation with my massive action team for my Warrior Mentorship Program. And I told them, guys, we fail every single person that doesn't sign up for our program because we know how good it is and how effective it is. And I'll brag for a second, Keeley, my students own upwards of 130,000 doors that we know of. And I've only been teaching less than 5 years. So, I'm super proud of that. But again, I believe that when you believe that and you're communicating with someone, that we're going to fail them if they don't come join our incredible group, if they meet our requirements. I mean, they have to apply to join us. But the point is, and by the way, if you are interested in our Warrior program, let me throw it out there real quick. It's stupid not to. Text the word crush to 72345. That's how you apply. But anyway, I love that. That absolutely resonates. Well, this has been such a hoot, and it's great to see your energy again. I'd forgotten just how incredible it was, and great to see you, and excited to see. Are you? By the way, are you going to do that Charlotte thing that? The next
it's
one
on my calendar. Yeah.
Is it all right? Fantastic. Yeah. Well, I'll see you there too. Well, listen, thank you for coming on the show and adding incredible value. And I look forward to seeing you again very soon.
This has been fun, Rod. Thank you.
All right. Take care. Bye now.
Rod, I know a lot of our listeners are wanting to take their multifamily investing business to the next level. Now, I know you've been hard at work helping our Warrior students do just that using our ACT methodology, which is awareness, close, and transform. Can you explain to the listeners how they can get our help?
You bet. Guys, we've been going nonstop for 3 years, building an amazing community of like-minded people. And our coaching students, which we call our Warriors, have had extraordinary results. They've purchased thousands and thousands of units. And last year, we did over 1,000 units with our students. And we're looking to grow this group and take it to the next level. We're looking for people who want to follow a proven framework that's really step by step, and then leverage our systems and network to raise equity, to find and close deals, and to build partnerships nationwide. Now, our Warrior community is finding success in any market cycle. So if you're interested in finding out more about how you can become more of our incredible network and take advantage of the incredible opportunities that are coming very soon, apply to work with us at mentorwithrod.com or text CRUSH to 72345, and we'll set up a call so you can check us out and we can check you out. That's mentorwithrod.com or text CRUSH to 72345.